Let's keep it going for Rossi. There they are. Yep.
I think that's good. All right, so I'm a wedding caterer, which is one crazy-ass way to make a living, I have to tell you. I've been in New York for a really long time. We just discovered, my friend and I have both been here since '81, and I have worked in some supremely crappy kitchens. I once worked in the basement of a takeout chicken place called Poulet Takeaway, and we had to kind of wade through chicken guts while these Chinese guys were chain smoking and blowing it in our face. That was pretty horrifying. Well, I fell in love with this space in the East Village that was really iconic for a long time called Cave Canem. This over-the-top debutante from New Orleans named Hain, who had an enormous amount of money, at least temporarily. Her parents bought her this entire building in the East Village on 1st Avenue and 2nd Street. And that's kind of when it was really pretty dicey in the East Village. I mean, like I went there to look at an apartment once for $300 a month and climbed over a mass of hypodermic needles. And I got into the apartment and a sea of cockroaches waited for me, so I was like, maybe not. But Cave Canem was different because Hain had all this money, and she turned it into this over-the-top supper club, which no one had done in the East Village. It had chandeliers. I mean, she spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the theme was Roman, like ancient Rome. And she had these two terrifying, huge Dobermans. And so she named him Cave Canem, which means beware the dog. And so everyone was always terrified of these giant Dobermans, except that she had this little miniature Doberman. And the Dobermans were not really going to bother with you, but the mini one would bite your ankle and you'd be out of there. So I approached her because she had this really gorgeous kitchen. But what happened was Cave Canem kind of fell into ruin, and the crackheads stole the chandeliers, and Hain kind of started snorting a lot of the profits up her nose, and things went into ruin. So I went to have a conversation with her one day. She was sitting on a bar stool in a full-length fur coat with nothing on under it. And when she decided it was kind of sexy, but when she decided that she had to go to the bathroom, she just urinated on the bar stool. But I thought maybe she was loose enough that I could approach her to possibly rent the kitchen. Because I'm like, in between the urination, I'm like, could I rent your kitchen? And so, which is, of course, what you normally think when someone's urinating in front of you. Like, I wonder what your kitchen's like. But they had this giant kitchen with like 10 ovens. And so she's like, why not? You know, give me $100 a day. That's like nothing. So she let me move all my stuff in, and we found a place for it. And I just loved cooking there. I would get lost in it. It had been an old gay male bathhouse in the 1970s. And there was also some satanic ritual stuff in the basement. And there was an old whirlpool and an old sauna, and it was really a wild, trippy thing. So when I would come in the morning, I had my fantastic sous chef Nilda, and we were ready for action to cook food for hundreds of people. But we would come in the morning, very often there would be people who had passed out the night before and just fallen under the tables. And they would just gravitate into the kitchen looking for food, so we had to get rid of them. And it started being things were starting to happen that were getting to be a little not so sexy. Like, I came in one time to open up the walk-in, which is this gigantic refrigerator where I had food for hundreds of people. And there was dog poop in the walk-in. So I guess the Dobermans had gone into the refrigerator in search of food and decided to leave a dump. So that was kind of unappealing. But we survived. And there were great benefits because after you would cater this fantastic wedding, you're exhausted and covered in dirt, and we'd come back with our pots and our pans and get a free shift drink at the bar. And I had some great dyke friends of mine at the bar. They always hooked me up with lots of chef drinks. So one night I come home after a really grueling and exhausting event. And I go to the bar and I have my drink and I have another drink. But I'm looking around and something seems kind of weird. And I realize there are a lot of men with no shirts on, Some of them are just in their underwear, or some of them are wearing various kinds of leather. And a lot of women in various kinds of leather. And for the most part, the women are walking the men around with leashes. And so now I had, at this point, had kind of seen everything. And even though it might sound exciting or sexy, after you've just finished serving food to hundreds of people at a Jewish wedding, not so sexy. But my feet were killing me. So I sat down. I said, well, hell, it's still free drinks. I had my 2 chef drinks. I put my feet up. And this man came over and asked if he could be my footstool. I was like, first I was like, ew, but then I was like, why not? So I put my feet on his back, and some other guy came and started giving me a foot massage. Some other guy bought me drinks, and some other guy asked if he could hold his hands out and be my ashtray. And I'd like to tell you I was deeply horrified and left, totally mortified. But I found out the date that they did the party, and I came back every month. It's fantastic.